December, January में इतना pressure होता है ना that we end up putting goals that are not possible only. Felt bad about yourself. That's why you set unrealistic goals. You didn't do them and then you feel more bad on yourself. Like it just keeps going, right? So I'm running 4 businesses and I love doing everything I do. I've built that love for it. It hasn't come easy. Free writing is one of the types of journaling that works for everybody. Fear of rejection तो सबको ही होता है. To go up to the opposite gender, that people will take it the wrong way. Women might take it the wrong way. How you present yourself in body language around the other gender comes down to making the other gender feel safe. हम खुद को जज कर लेते हैं इससे पहले कि हम किसी और को मौका दें हमें जज करने का. हम सबकी बॉडी में dopamine, serotonin, all those chemicals in our brains exist, right? बट हर किसी के लेवल्स सेम नहीं होते. आपकी लैंग्वेज में, आपके वर्ड्स में, आपकी इवन बॉडी लैंग्वेज में इतनी पावर है दैट इट कैन चेंज हु यू आर, हु यू शो अप एज एंड व्हाट यू विन इन लाइफ. कॉफी एंड एंग्जाइटी एंड जो कॉर्टिसोल कर्व भी आप बोल रहे थे, ऑल दैट इज रियल. सिंस चाइल्डहुड आई हैव हैड क्लिनिकल एंग्जाइटी. अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल गेट सो अटैच्ड टू देयर ट्रॉमा दैट दे रिफ्यूज टू चेंज.
So hello and namaste Youngistan, welcome to the One Life show with Karan and today I have with me Ayushi Mathur and वो कौन है, कहाँ से आई हैं और आज हमारे साथ क्यों बैठी हैं वो मैं नहीं, वो ये खुद आंसर करेंगे. because hello Ayushi, welcome to the show. Your first question right off the bat is आप कौन हैं and what do you do and what all things can we learn from you today? Anything about your background first please.
First of all Karan, thank you so much for having me here. And quickly, who am I? I'm Joy.
You're Joy? I thought you're Ayushi.
No, I'm also Joy. I'm always happy, most of the time at least. My background is, I was born in Jaipur. I've lived in different cities, even different countries, studied in 7 schools, lived in 16 houses. A lot has happened. And that's what makes me me, a Jane of all trades, right? So I do a lot of different things. I dip my hands or my entire body into a lot of different things. And I really, really enjoy it. That's me.
Well, that's nice. So, कभी स्थिरता नहीं आई थी आपकी लाइफ में? इतने सारे स्कूल्स, इतने सारी कंट्रीज, इतने सारे शहर बदलते, कभी मन करा कि एक जगह में टिक के बैठ जाऊं?
कभी-कभी मन किया, but then नहीं हुआ.
Okay.
मतलब मन नहीं करता मेरा. फिर change is in my DNA. This change is me means change. Yeah. It works for me that way.
And what currently are you doing in terms of your professional sphere, if I may ask?
A lot of things, again.
Like?
So I'm running 4 businesses and I love doing everything I do. And I've built that love for it. It's not, it hasn't come easy. Because when you follow your purpose, your passion, it's not going to be easy. It isn't. So I run a marketing agency. That's been my longest business, longest pursuit. That's been 6.5 years.
Oh.
I run Life by Design with my 2 co-founders. And that is a retreat business, mental health retreats every couple of months. I run a coaching business, which is me with independently also with colleges and different companies. I give my services as a coach. And 4th is content, you know, YouTube, Instagram, all of that.
So this is the 4th revenue stream, guys, that we are a part of live as of now. That sounds super exciting. Let's go into the other topics that I have planned for you. आपको 6 साल हो गए जर्नल करते हैं. Maybe now you can journal just by talking to yourself in the mirror. But जिसको अभी बिल्कुल पता ही नहीं journaling की spelling, वो कैसे start करे?
There are different types of journaling that you can try. There are 2-3 that work for everybody. There are a lot of people who wake up or go to sleep with a lot of angst, right? They'll overthink through the night or they'll wake up with, oh my God, another day, right? For them, free writing works a lot. So right before you're sleeping or the minute you wake up, what you do is you grab a pen and paper and write down everything unfiltered on the notebook. And the second step to that is do not judge yourself. Whatever you're feeling, whatever you're writing, remove that lens of judgment.
I think that's tough.
It is. But if you judge yourself, that means you're not even allowing yourself to actually feel the feeling or the emotion. So slowly and steadily acknowledge, okay, this is how I'm feeling. It is what it is, right? Doesn't make me a bad person, doesn't make me a certain type of person. It's just what I'm feeling right now. And when you acknowledge it, you accept it, then you can work on it also. You can put in more energy to work on that emotion or feeling as well. So free writing is one of the types of journaling that works for everybody. Definitely should do. The second type is for people who are around productivity and all of that, do bullet journaling.
Okay.
Like, you know, keywords. Whatever keeps coming to your head, just keywords and write it down. Really works. And finally, the third type is, and this is going to be tough, write a letter to your younger self or your higher self, or both if you want to, right? Some of us have a troublesome past, a troublesome younger self identity, right? Write a letter to them that you've got their back now. You've got them. Now who you are, you're not going to let bad things happen to yourself, or you're not going to fail them. Talk to them. Or you can even write to your higher self that you're working towards that higher self. You're getting there. You're sure. So
I think it releases a lot of tension from the past that might be held up within you when you're talking to your past self.
Yeah.
And it might be very boosting and encouraging to the future self wale ko bhi kehna. Because, the productivity bullet journal side of things, I was just thinking the way I journal is so haphazard that I love mind maps. And that also I realized only after years of doing it on random 10 to 20 diaries कि अच्छा तो keywords लिखता हूँ जो mind में चल रहा है, anxious thoughts भी अगर कुछ चल रही हैं. And then I draw map कि अच्छा ये वाली चीज़ आयुषी की वजह से फील हुई थी, अच्छा ये वाली चीज़ तो मेरे साथ ऑफिस में आज ऐसा हुआ था, अरे नहीं ये एक्चुअली इसलिए क्योंकि सुबह उठ के जिम नहीं करा. And I actually get to draw कि okay maybe it's a mix of thing. But ये mapping just releases that tension. It's not that I stop feeling that feeling, but then it's just कि अच्छा clarity of thought आ गई. जो cloud चल रहा था दिमाग के अंदर वो पेपर पे और ये है. तो क्या करना है इसके बारे में? कुछ नहीं, दिन तो start करना ही है. So it just I stopped carrying those unjumbled thoughts in my mind at least. So I think whatever floats your boat, कि किसी के लिए bullet journaling हो, किसी के लिए free flow writing हो, या किसी के लिए letter to your younger and higher self. Yeah.
That is so cool. The mapping. That's something I do verbally or like in my thoughts. Lovely.
काफी सारी चीजें आप थॉट्स में कर लेते हैं अपना कि अच्छा 6 साल हो गए हैं अभी मैं वो भी विजन बोर्ड भी दिमाग में ही बना लेती होंगी. आई हर्ड ओपरा विनफ्रे से समडे कि अच्छा आई बिलीव इन विजन बोर्ड्स बट नाउ आई डोंट मेक बिकॉज नाउ इट्स इन माय ब्रेन. अच्छा नाउ आई डोंट एक्चुअली नीड टू फिजिकली पेस्ट एंड ऑन अ पिन बोर्ड दोस फोटोग्राफ्स दैट आई
never made vision boards.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't believe in putting that यहाँ पहुँचना है picture. Instead, I would put what I'm doing to get there.
Okay. The process,
like the process.
maybe not the outcome.
क्योंकि आपको रिजल्ट नहीं देखना है, क्योंकि अगर आप रोज, इसमें भी साइंस है, अगर आप रोज रिजल्ट की पिक्चर देख रहे हो ना, तो कहीं ना कहीं योर ब्रेन विल बिलीव कि आप पहुंच गए वहाँ पे, तो आप उतनी मेहनत करना बंद कर दोगे. तो इंस्टेड पुट प्रोसेस दैट इट विल टेक टू गेट टू योर विजन सेल्फ.
I wanted to segue into relationship side of communication because that is, I love communication skills, but I thought that since there is a lady on the other side of the table, I actually want your take on communication skills applied to relationships. And relationships does not actually mean guys कि सिर्फ girlfriend boyfriend, but generally in social settings like these. For example, अगर मैं आयुषी के साथ बैठे हुए, if I'm too this kind of a body language, yeah, I'm too manspreading type of a animalistic body language, those kind of tips and tricks I think would really help in the personal growth and soft skill personality development side of people. So do you believe that whoever people you have met in life, boys generally do not know कि अच्छा communicate किस तरह करना है? For the first question of this segment कि लड़कियों के साथ कि अगर I don't know if many people if they just feel like I admire this lady, I want to go up and say hello, they won't say because confidence or communication skill, confidence internal or communication skill as an actual tactical skill they haven't maybe learned. What's your take on that?
The second thing that you said, that I've seen.
The communication skill part. Or the
going up to people and saying hi. Like whenever I do an event, an in-person event, I'll get DMs later. Oh, I wanted to come up to you and say hi, but I was scared. Right? I'm sorry if I look scary sometimes.
So they do DM. मतलब वो DM is a safe channel for them to express.
Yeah.
But in real life, when the moment was there.
Yeah. But don't you think like that would be such a wholesome interaction if we spoke in person, right? You'll really get my energy also. But anyway, going back to, which one do we talk about? You talked about two things.
I'll make it easier. Why do boys feel shy for walking up to a girl and saying hello? And what are the actual strategies that they can actually take to, unblock this? कि हाँ, मुझे किसी लड़के से जाके बात करनी है, I'll directly say, कौन सी बुक पढ़ रहे हो, कैफे में अच्छी लग रही है. But if there's a girl who is behind the book and I'm genuinely interested in that book, I'm line मारने वाले intentions से creepy intentions नहीं, but just having a conversation that hey, we have a shared aspiration, I too love that book, but they won't just go कि यार लड़की है कैसे बात करूँ.
This is very layered. This is not easy because this is also a lot of societies coming into this, right? We've seen that people will take it the wrong way. Women might take it the wrong way. Even right now, you had to clarify कि किस intention से आप जा रहे हो, right? But the person on the receiving end won't know your intention.
Yes, that's
right? So this is very layered. One is fear of rejection, तो सबको ही होता है, to go up to the opposite gender. And the second is society has also built it up that way. But coming back to what you started with, how you present yourself in body language around the other gender comes down to making the other gender feel safe. If I feel safe in your presence, I will be more open to communicating, to be more vulnerable, anything like that, right? How can you make the other person feel safe in your presence, right? Very small things. You're smiling, you're not approaching very aggressively, right? You're first just waving and just letting them know that you're interested in having a conversation, asking for permission, right? So even if you see someone reading a great book or even a book written by you in the cafe, you ask them, hey, do you have a minute? I would love to talk about that book. Just that much. Instead of directly jumping into the comment. And this is very, very important for women, because a lot of women have grown up feeling unsafe, right? In public or even in their families. So it all comes down to safety. There are lots of layers to that also, but I would recommend that men read more on it. How to make women feel safe in their presence. That's it.
And even in terms of confidence, you use the word confidence. As a confidence coach, do you think there are a few steps that any 16-year-old guy living in a tier 3 city in India can actually take कि अच्छा मैं लड़की क्या मैं वैसे ही ग्रुप सेटिंग्स में बीट एन इंटरव्यू सेटिंग फॉर कॉलेज या फिर अपने दोस्तों के कॉलेज वाले ग्रुप में मैं उतना मिंगल नहीं हो पाता, मेरे पास भी पॉइंट्स हैं बोलने के लिए, बट आई एम नॉट द वन हु विल एक्सट्रोवर्टली स्टार्ट स्पीकिंग अप due to lack of confidence. Do you have any things for people like these कि how can they become a 1% more confident version of themselves?
सबसे पहले ना, let's understand why do we not go up and talk in a group setting? आपने कहा मेरे पास तो है चीज़ें बोलने को, बट मैं बोल ही नहीं पाया, क्योंकि हम खुद को जज कर लेते हैं इससे पहले कि हम किसी और को मौका दें हमें जज करने का. हम खुद को फेल कर लेते हैं इससे पहले कि हम ट्राई भी करें, right? That's what we're doing.
Mentally, yes.
हर किसी भी लड़के लड़की किसी से भी आप पूछो कि भाई क्यों नहीं गया उस ग्रुप में, क्यों नहीं बात की, देयर आंसर 99% ऑफ द टाइम विल बी यार मुझे लगा वो लोग क्या सोचेंगे, मैंने कुछ गलत बोल दिया तो, मैंने कुछ फनी बोल दिया तो,
मजाक बन जाएगा,
राइट? हाँ,
बेइज्जती हो जाएगी.
कोशिश तो करो, राइट? तुम्हें कैसे पता व्हाट्स गोइंग ऑन इन देयर हेड? क्योंकि ये सबसे बड़ा फियर ऑफ जजमेंट पता है हमें दूसरों का नहीं है. वी आर अफ्रेड ऑफ आवर ओन जजमेंट. राइट नाउ I can't read your mind, right? I don't know what you're thinking about me. But if I'm coming from a fear of judgment space, मेरे दिमाग में ही चल रहा होगा, अरे करण को तो ना मैं जैसे बोल रही हूँ मज़ा नहीं आ रहा उसे, कुछ भी है, बिल्कुल वैल्यू नहीं मिल रही, all of that. And अगर मैं ये सोचते रहूँ, तो then I'll act like that also. तो ये दो चीज़ें याद रखनी है कि क्या आप खुद को पहले जज कर ले रहे हो और अपने आप को मौका भी नहीं दे रहे, और दूसरी, अगर आप अपने आप को जज कर रहे हो उसका कॉन्सिक्वेंस क्या होगा. NLP में एक चीज़ हमने सीखी थी विच इज़ कॉल्ड परसेप्शन इज प्रोजेक्शन. मैं जो अपने बारे में परसीव कर रही हूँ इस सेटिंग में, आई विल प्रोजेक्ट इट. अगर मैं आई वॉकड इन टू दिस पॉडकास्ट थिंकिंग कि मैं तो कुछ वैल्यू नहीं ऐड कर सकती करण के चैनल पे, मेरा पूरा कॉन्वर्जेशन उस तरफ मुड़ जाता और धीरे धीरे आपको भी लगने लग जाता कि यार आयुषी तो कुछ वैल्यू ऐड नहीं कर रही है, क्योंकि परसेप्शन इज प्रोजेक्शन. ह्यूमंस आर वेरी वेरी एम्पैथेटिक नेचुरली. हमारे पास वो न्यूरॉन्स होते हैं जिससे हम एम्पैथी कर सकते हैं. और एम्पैथी कैसे आती है? यू विल स्टार्ट फीलिंग हाउ आई एम फीलिंग, एंड इफ यू रियली बिलीव इन दिस ना, विच इज़ ट्रू ऑल्सो साइंटिफिकली, perception will become projection. So you should walk into a space thinking I will add value, and when you believe that, others will believe that also.
That's terrific. I completely agree. And it's circled back to the NLP thing of once again बात internal ही हो गई कि external settings के लिए भी पहले internal compass को ठीक करके और बॉस, वरना हर जगह पे ये चीज़ दिक्कत देगी, right? Speaking of communication skills, you must have heard that 83% of communication is actually body language. And in terms of body language, the way we are sitting right now, the way a guy and girl would sit in a cafe or in an interview setting would also have a major impact on the kind of results they will always have in life. Speaking on body language, have you observed as a coach कि अच्छा ये 3-4 body language mistakes तो mostly लड़के लड़कियाँ any gender कर ही रहे हैं और उनको बिल्कुल aware नहीं है उस चीज़ के, which you could maybe shed a light on, and people who are listening to this might go like, हाँ ये तो शायद मैं भी करता हूँ, and they might not be even aware of it. And maybe through your exercises like that कि जैसे लिखना है, and maybe they can try to catch their body language. Is there anything there?
one of the most common things जो आपने बोला interview setting में या किसी date पे या something like that, what people do regardless of gender is fidget, right? So उनका ऐसे पैर चलते रहेगा या फिर कुछ ना कुछ वो हाथ से करते रहेंगे. तो this fidgeting gives the perception to other person that you are uncomfortable. Because you're fidgeting, you're not feeling safe in my company. If you're not feeling safe in my company, I'm not feeling safe in your company.
Two-sided पंगा.
Yeah. तो again, perception is projection, right? अगर आपको ही angst feel हो रही है, anxiety feel हो रही है मेरे साथ बैठ के, तो मुझे कैसे ease feel होगी? तो start noticing if you're fidgeting, whether it's in an interview or when you're meeting business prospects or dating prospects or anything. So number one is that. And second is, I would really suggest that people should show up neutral. A lot of people say कि show up ऐसे बड़े होके, like expand your body and all of that. But again, that could come off as threatening in certain situations. At the end of the day, हम animals ही है ना. We are from the animal kingdom only. So if you've seen animals, what they do when two packs of wolves would come together, so the alpha males in both, they will try to grow their bodies, right? Like their hair would stand, their fur would stand up, and they'll stand in such a way that, hey, I'm more dominating, right? So I know a lot of books and a lot of coaches say ki show up that way, but that's also threatening. I would say keep neutral. Don't slouch, don't make your body smaller also, but don't go super aggressive as well. Stay welcoming, stay neutral. That would work. So these two things.
Nice. Because I had also heard कि like man spreading is a very famous thing, and we are just living in a time when Ranbir Kapoor ki animal release is, so it makes all the more sense because all male characters in that movie back to back had all those animalistic body languages, which for good. Otherwise, this conversation could have gone in a totally different direction. I also wanted, because we were having coffee before having this conversation, and you said that, okay, you maybe do not like having coffee first thing in the morning, while I'm a very hardcore black espresso guy. First moment I wake up at 5 a.m. Would you like to tell, like मैं अपना angle पहले बताऊंगा, and then I would throw this question to you rather. I've read all these cortisol curves कि सुबह नहीं पीनी चाहिए first thing क्योंकि आपका cortisol already high है और peak कर जाएगा, फिर crash कर जाएगा and all. And the kid in me who grew up on coffee and loves coffee and still loves coffee says कि यार भाड़ में गए ये सारे graphs और knowledge है, मेरे को सुबह coffee पीनी है और मैं अकेले है, ये मेरा एक साथी है और मेरे साथ में काम चल रहा है, so it will really help me. The question is actually from an anxiety wala point of view, because I do have friends who say कि they can feel something when there's coffee in the system, and they feel an otherwise a more stabler, calmer state when there's no caffeine in the system. What's your take? Caffeine and anxiety, is it something you have felt?
Absolutely. All brains are wired differently, right? It might work for you, or your body might have gotten used to it. If you said that आप बचपन से coffee पी रहे हो या काफ़ी early age से, तो then your body has adapted to it. But coffee and anxiety and जो cortisol curve भी आप बोल रहे थे, all that is real. You must have read that people say कि 11-12 बजे तक coffee पियो instead of first thing in the morning. क्योंकि अगर आप first thing in the morning पी लोगे, what happens with caffeine is that it'll make you feel all energetic in here, and then suddenly it will crash. Quick suggestion, instead of coffee, matcha is so much better. Matcha has a lot of caffeine, but it doesn't give you a drop. It doesn't give you a crash ever.
Where do we find matcha? Because pardon my ignorance here, the middle class Delhi that I grew up in, of course, I didn't even know the spelling of espresso. I'm 90s kid. Yeah. और matcha हो या kombucha हो, I'm slowly exploring this whole world of ashwagandha milkshakes as well. So for people in India who might not be aware कि matcha क्या है, पहले तो matcha क्या है बता दो और कहाँ से मिलती है, किन शहरों में मिलती है, और actually इसके क्या, is it something like a green tea or is it like a sister of green tea? What is it? For the unaware, including me.
The whole concept comes from Japan. It is concentrated green tea. Green tea में भी कैफीन होता है, बट एल्थियानिन भी होता है, वो सब में नहीं जा रहे, बट हाँ तो कॉन्सेंट्रेटेड ग्रीन टी है वो, ग्रीन टी पाउडर आपको अमेजोन पे मिल जाएगा बहुत ईजिली. और अब टियर 1 सिटीज़ में तो थर्ड वेव है, या फिर ऐसे बहुत सारी स्टारबक्स एंड ऑल दैट, वहाँ पे मिल जाएगा. You can order it, you can make it at home. That will be much cheaper than getting it from a cafe any day. And yeah, matcha, like I was saying, it's so much better than coffee because it doesn't give you a caffeine crash. क्या होता है ना कॉफ़ी पीने वालों के साथ कि आप सुबह सुबह एक पी लोगे, फिर 11-12 बजे आपको लगेगा यार एक और चाहिए अब, फिर 5-6 बजे लगेगा एक और चाहिए अब, बिकॉज आपका वो जो डाउनर आता है ना कैफीन से, वो इतना स्ट्रॉन्ग हिट करता है दैट यू वांट टू कीप ड्रिंकिंग कॉफ़ी. एंड आई नो सो मेनी प्रोडक्टिव बिजनेस ओनर्स But like मैं तो 5 पी जाता हूँ दिन में या 4
they'll be very proud to
Very
proclaim
proud.
it कि अरे मैं तो कॉफी पे खून की जगह कॉफी बहेगी, आप निकालो तो सही.
Not a thing to be proud of.
हाँ वही, मतलब they are perhaps कि मुझे तो लगती है कॉफी.
Yeah, coming back to anxiety, I'm not so much of a coffee person. थोड़ा बहुत now I drink cold coffee क्योंकि since childhood I've had clinical anxiety. Like when I was a toddler, then it was very strong and my parents couldn't understand what it is. And then it got better during my teenage, all of that. And then certain really bad things happened, like a lot of grief in when I was finishing my college. That triggered the anxiety again. So 2015-16, I started having anxiety attacks very often, and very, very strong ones, right? So, and then I started noticing that even if I would at a meeting drink a cappuccino, within like 15-20 minutes or half an hour, I would start feeling panic. So I cut down caffeine completely. For 4-5 years, I had no caffeine at all because I just couldn't take it. But that being said, that was also because my base state was anxiety.
Right.
I hadn't worked on it. I went to therapy. I worked on it. I got a lot of grounding practices, a lot of somatic practices to deal with or work with my anxiety. And then when my base state became happy and calm and ease, now I can have coffee and not feel it.
I would really want to bother you with this question for the next 5 minutes at least. And this is completely coming out of a state of sheer ignorance. Why? Because for anyone who is watching this, I don't know the spelling of anxiety, if that cuts it. क्योंकि I don't know. Maybe, and then you can correct me if I'm wrong, कि मेरा kind of ठीक चला है सब, right? So of course, अगर मुझे पता नहीं है कि बस में कैसे travel करने की feeling क्या होती है, क्योंकि मैंने बस में कभी travel नहीं करा है, it's a very similar kind of a scenario. कि मेरी पढ़ाई भी ठीक चली है, relationships भी ठीक चले हैं, कॉलेज भी ठीक चल पड़े, जॉब भी ठीक चल पड़ी है, तो आई हैव नेवर हैड दोज बाउट्स ऑफ एंग्जाइटी. तो फॉर दोज पीपल, सो दैट दे गेट सेंसिटाइज कि सामने वाला क्या कह रहे हैं, वो पहले समझ ले कि इसका मतलब क्या होता है. लाइक आई वाज ट्राइंग टू थिंक कि क्या एग्जाम से पहले जो मुझे स्ट्रेस फील होता था, क्या करण उसी को एंग्जाइटी कहते हैं, या फिर किसी लड़की को प्रपोज किया, वो 2 दिन ले रही है, हाँ या ना बोलेगी, क्या उसे एंग्जाइटी कहते हैं, या उसे पैनिक कहते हैं, उसे फियर कहते हैं, जो सिंपल भाषा वाले शब्दों और एडजेक्टिव्स का प्रयोग हम बचपन से कर रहे थे वो है. So what is this clinical anxiety, if at all you could like lay it and define it? कि अच्छा, this is anxiety, this is not. This is anxiety, this is not. And this is too much anxiety, this is very normal anxiety. Totally like ज्ञान session for me, please.
I'll give you very simple examples, right? Fear सबको होता है. जो आपने examples दिए, fear सबको होता है, and that is okay. That's not anxiety. I know आज की डेट में लोग ना डिप्रेशन, एंग्जाइटी, ये सब चीज़ें बहुत ही इजीली बोल देते हैं. They'll put it like कि तो नमक डाल दिया.
और इसीलिए मैं confused हूँ again कि क्या है exactly. I want to put a finger on it कि इसको कहते हैं anxiety.
Yeah. No, so that's what I'm saying now. When and that's why I brought up, and how I mentioned it was also clinical anxiety, right? Which is diagnosed, right? And अब मैं जब 2 साल की थी या 3 साल की थी, तब क्या बुरा हुआ है मेरे साथ, जो इतना बड़ा क्या हार्ट ब्रेक हुआ है मेरा, दैट आई वुड हैव, राइट? सो इन माई केस, आई एम ओनली टॉकिंग अबाउट मी. ये वाला तो एग्जाम से पहले या किसी को प्रपोज किया, ये सब वाले फियर्स तो सबको होते हैं. यू आर ह्यूमन एट द एंड ऑफ द डे. बट आई विल टेल यू वन ऑफ द in 2015, in my second last semester, when I realized that this is not okay, I was sitting in my room and मेरा ना एक some light colored t-shirt ज़मीन पे गिर गया था ऊपर से कहीं से, and it was just on the floor, and my brain, I don't know what kicked off in my brain. I went into full panic mode. I couldn't
just by looking at the t-shirt.
I couldn't get out of bed and pick it up, and I was so fearful of that कि वो नीचे पड़ा है, गंदा हो जाएगा या whatever, right? इतनी सी बात, which is nothing to be honest, right? वो देखते हुए I went into a full panic mode. I had to call my friend. बहुत मुश्किल से 15-20 मिनट बाद I could even lift my phone and call my friend, listen, please come over, there's something wrong with me. उस समय even I didn't realize what was going on, right? The next day we went to a doctor and then all of that. But what clinical anxiety is, अगर simple terms में बताया जाए तो fear सबको होता है, लेकिन fear of either very, very simple things like fear of nothing, right? Can't even define it very well, but बस fear exist करता है, right? That's it. वो किसी result से driven नहीं है, it just is. and it takes over your body.
So there's no definite causation or correlation to it कि इस वजह से आ रहा है, like the mind mapping thing that we just spoke about, कि अच्छा ये वाली feeling यहाँ से आ रही है. But if there's no identifiable trigger, so doesn't it make it a little more confusing or fearful in itself कि अच्छा or maybe then we follow the therapeutic exercises कि it just is accepted or it passes. Like how that's the cause of it. How to solve this thing then?
There can be a trigger. I'm not saying there's no trigger. Right? Like that t-shirt on the floor was a trigger, but if I talk about it today, how is that a trigger? Like
I thought there must be some childhood thing related to that t-shirt which would emanate out of it कि अरे ये t-shirt तो वो थी and blah blah blah.
None of it.
Nothing like that.
Nothing. I couldn't literally physically get up from the bed and pick it up. I couldn't. I had to call my friend from another apartment building to come over and help me do that. So trigger हो सकता है, but your reaction is blown out of proportion. For some people, it might come from overthinking and this and that. For some people, it's just automatic. That's how the neurotransmitters in your brain are working. That's how the chemicals in your brain are working, right? Again, going back to anxiety, this can come from a lot of incidents in your life when you've gone through a lot and it built up as a mechanism, or you could be born with it also. क्योंकि हम सबकी body में dopamine, serotonin, all those chemicals in our brains exist, right? But हर किसी के levels same नहीं होते. Some people are genetically born with lower dopamine, right? तो वो चीज़ इन सब चीज़ों में manifest करती है, either clinical depression or clinical anxiety and many other things. What I learned from my therapist, I'm not a therapist, so I'm not going to speak more on this, on diagnosing and all of that. I don't want people to diagnose themselves, also disclaimer. But what worked for me was one, your breath is the answer to your nervous system. Right? आप जो बोल रहे थे cortisol बढ़ जाता है, adrenaline बढ़ जाता है जब आप डर जाते हो, right? उन सब का जवाब आपकी breath में है. So if you can take a few deep breaths every day, do breathing exercises, over time your nervous system will regulate itself. So one of the exercises my therapist gave me was to blow balloons every day, so that my breathing capacity also got better. And the other was, yoga में एक child pose होता है, where your head is on the floor and your knees are on your chest and your hands are spread out like this. That is one of the safest pose. It's called a child pose for a reason, right? It puts us in that fetal position, how we were, because we felt the safest when we were in the womb, right? Yeah. So it brings us back to that, grounds us and brings us back to feeling safe. So these two things worked wonders for me. Of course, with journaling and all of the other tools and techniques, but these two somatic practices worked a lot. What happens psychologically in your brain when you want to achieve something and then your journaling or your manifestations or your words come in, right? You brought up neuro-linguistic programming. What does that mean? Layman भाषा में neuro-linguistic programming means आप अपने खुद के शब्द use करके अपना brain, अपनी habits बदल रहे हो. That's it. Linguistics. आपकी language में, आपके words में, आपकी even body language में इतनी power है that it can change who you are, who you show up as and what you win in life or lose.
And these words are with yourself, right? हम अपने आप से जो बातें करते हैं.
How you talk about yourself with other people and how you talk to yourself about yourself. Both these things. Example, wait, people who want to lose weight, they go to the gym, right? And they're feeling fat, right? But वो gym में घुसते ही mirrors में देख के अपने आप को रोज बोल रहे कितनी मोटी है, कुछ नहीं हो सकता तेरा तो. A lot of people go with that thought, right? तो वो कितना भी अच्छा trainer रख ले, कुछ भी कर ले, they're not gonna lose weight as fast as they're supposed to. They might, they will. Biologically तो वो सब weight loss work करेगा ही, but they won't. What happens here is, talking about science, cognitive dissonance. मतलब हमारे brain में अगर हमारे actions और हमारे words match नहीं कर रहे हैं ना, तो हमारा brain confuse हो जाता है. कि आप बोल तो कुछ रहे हो और चाह कुछ और रहे हो, action कुछ और ले रहे हो. तो what happens is, easier क्या है change करना brain के लिए, वो action करना बंद कर देता है. So you will see one of the most common things, people who are trying to lose weight and come from a very, very low self-worth space, अपने आप को बुरा बोलने की आदत है उन्हें, वो क्या करते हैं, वो 5 दिन वर्कआउट करेंगे, 4 दिन वर्कआउट करेंगे, 5th day they'll binge eat. Right. Because their brain would try to match their narrative that they had, कि मैं तो मोटी हूँ, right? So this is the science behind manifestations or journaling or anything like affirmations and all of that we talk about. जो भी आप अपने आप को बोल रहे हो, right? That will have a huge impact on your end outcome. So simply, even if you're not feeling great about your body, you just say, I'm a work in progress. I am working on my body, so of course it will change. That's it. That's it. And you'll see the massive change in the coming weeks.
How do we build the narrative? क्योंकि अगर narrative इतना important है जहाँ से emanate होके ही ultimately हम अपने consequences change कर पाएंगे, तो are there any actionable steps for a newcomer कि अच्छा ये रास्ता try करता हूँ narrative change करने का, या चलो ये वाला tools या techniques try करता हूँ narrative change करने के लिए? Are there any things that I could start with?
One thing that I make all my clients do is उनको मैं ना ऐसे task देती हूँ first coaching call में कि अब until the next coaching call, maybe a week later, take this week to only hear yourself, right? Just catch yourself. जितनी बार आप mirror में देख रहे हो, जितनी बार आपको you have to come do something like this, you know, you have to go give a speech or a presentation at your work, anything. उससे पहले में just catch yourself, आपके दिमाग में क्या चल रहा है. That's it. And then अगर आपके पास फ़ोन है उस समय हाथ में, तो नोट्स ऐप में वो सेंटेंस लिख लो जो आपने बोला, राइट? पेन पेपर है, उसमें लिख लो. बस जितनी, ऑब्वियसली दिन भर तो नहीं लिख सकते, बट जितनी बार हो सके उतनी बार जस्ट राइट डाउन व्हाट यू आर सेइंग टू योरसेल्फ.
Catch yourself basically. Identify. It's like अपना रिकॉर्डिंग सॉफ्टवेयर साथ लेके चलो.
That's it. Okay. Right? इतना भी कर लोगे ना आप, तो एक हफ्ता भी नहीं लगेगा. 2 दिन में यू विल बी लाइक क्या बोलते हो मैं खुद को, मतलब व्हाट एम आई मीन,
जो नेगेटिव सेल्फ चार्टर निकल के आएगा परहैप्स.
यू विल बी स्कैर्ड लुकिंग एट जो आपने सेंटेंसेस अक्यूमुलेट किए हैं ना. एंड दिस I will agree sometimes happens with me also. I've not reached a place where I'm only positive about myself, right?
No one has, I think. Yeah.
Exactly. So sometimes I will catch myself saying ki, oh my God, you look like a potato in that picture. Right? So later I'll think, wow, मैं खुद को potato बोल रही हूँ.
How can किसी और ने नहीं बोला, मैं खुद ही को बोल रही हूँ.
Exactly. तो यहाँ से start होती है वो journey. And then the second is, how can I make these sentences neutral, not even positive. एकदम से इतने नेगेटिव सेंटेंसेस को आप पॉजिटिव बनाना मुश्किल होगा, आपका भी ब्रेन बिलीव नहीं करेगा. तो जस्ट मेक देम न्यूट्रल, मेक देम इनटू वर्क इन प्रोग्रेस. दैट्स इट. कि ओके, आई मे लुक अ सर्टन वे हियर बट आई एम वर्किंग ऑन इट, आई एम डूइंग समथिंग टुवर्ड्स इट. और अगर आप नहीं भी कर रहे होगे ना, इफ़ यू आर सेइंग आई एम डूइंग समथिंग, आई एम वर्किंग टुवर्ड्स इट, यू विल बी इंक्लाइंड टू वर्क टुवर्ड्स इट.
आई थिंक जिस तरह से टाइम ट्रैकिंग एक्सरसाइजेस भी कही जाती हैं कि बिफोर इम्प्रूविंग ऑन योर टाइम, पहले नापना तो शुरू कर दो कि टाइम जा कहाँ रहा था. बिफोर अर्निंग अ लॉट ऑफ पर्सनल फाइनेंस, ट्रैकिंग एक्सरसाइजेस से ही शुरू करवाया जाता है कि पहले ट्रैक तो कर लो पैसा जा कहाँ रहा है, उसके बाद देखेंगे कि इसको न्यूट्रल करना है या पॉजिटिव करना है. एंड आई थिंक द सेकंड थिंग दैट यू सेड कि लोअरिंग द बार स्ट्रैटेजी, कि एकदम सुपर ह्यूमन वंडर वुमन लेवल भी अपने आप को कहोगे तो वंस अगेन वो मिसमैच फील होगा, राइट? दैट इफ माई सेल्फ एस्टीम इज एट अ -10 और मैं +100 का एम करूंगी, तो ऑल ऑफ अ सडन मेरे ब्रेन कहेगा चलना अभी तो पोटैटो बोली खुद को, अभी तो वंडर वुमन कह रही है सीधा. तो एटलीस्ट 0 लेवल पे बेस लाइन धीरे धीरे आके, सो वुड दैट आई एम अज्यूमिंग कि वो ओवर टाइम इट विल ट्रांसलेट इनटू अ +2, +4, +6 की धीरे-धीरे बेबी स्टेप्स करके अपना सेल्फ एस्टीम बढ़ाया जाएगा. आई थिंक दैट्स व्हाट यू से. सेल्फ एस्टीम की बात करते हैं ना, कई बार मुझे लगता है आयुषी, स्पेशली व्हेन द ईयर एंड्स, मेनी पीपल फील द गिल्ट ऑफ नॉट हैविंग कंप्लीटेड देयर न्यू ईयर रेजोल्यूशंस कि अच्छा जैन में तो करा था, फेब में गाड़ी छूटी थी, मार्च ऑनवर्ड्स में फिर से जंग खाने लग गया था, लग गई थी, और दिसंबर के टुवर्ड्स लास्ट 10 डेज में स्पेशल गिल्ट हो रहा होता है कि यार देखो फिर से कुछ नहीं उखाड़ा. और वो सेल्फ एस्टीम जो कि ऑलरेडी थोड़ा लो पे था, क्योंकि उन्होंने पिछले 5 साल से वही न्यू ईयर रेजोल्यूशन सेट करे थे और कभी बैंग ऑन वंडर वुमन लेवल अचीव नहीं करे, तो सेल्फ एस्टीम का वो स्पाइरल डाउन चलता ही रहता है. फ्रॉम अ मेंटल हेल्थ पर्सपेक्टिव आई एम रियली कंसर्न कि यार लोगों को कैसा लगता होगा कि मैंने फिर से नहीं करा, क्योंकि वो सेल्फ चार्टर फिर से नेगेटिव लूप में जाने लगता है. इज देयर अ वे दैट यू थिंक one can help themselves while setting resolutions at this point in time as well?
2 things. Number 1, let's talk on the logical side. Smart goals, बहुत लोग बोलते हैं ना smart goals. उसका सबसे important letter or word is realistic. ये time पे December, January में इतना pressure होता है ना that we end up putting goals that are not possible only, that are not realistic. We'll say, okay, अगले साल तो I'll lose 15 kgs or I'll not eat junk at all for the whole of January. पॉसिबल है क्या? हाँ, एक्सट्रीम्स में जीते हैं ना लोग. दैट इज़ 1. 2, मैंने पर्सनली तो रेजोल्यूशन सेट करना बंद कर दिया है पिछले 2-3 साल से. Again,
take us through a journey. हाँ क्यों कैसे? Because भाई it will be beautiful to know.
क्योंकि I was also there where I was setting extreme goals or unrealistic goals. And then फिर क्या करते हैं हम सब यही करते हैं. आप नहीं रीच कर पाते फिर अपने आप को गिल्ट करते हो आप. फिर then you feel bad about yourself. It's a negative loop. You felt bad about yourself. That's why you set unrealistic goals. You didn't do them, and then you feel more bad about yourself. Like it just
Loop.
keeps going, right? So I broke that loop by not setting resolutions, but again going back to intentions. I set intentions. So when 2023 started, I set one intention that this year is going to be abundant. So in order for this year to be abundant, first I need to believe in it, that I can attract abundance. And second, I need to show up as my best everywhere, right? Only then I'll get abundance, right? When I have space to hold abundance, only then I'll attract it, right? And this year was abundant. I have it's been one of the biggest year in my career ever, I think. So yeah, that's
so you
it.
do believe in universe and manifestation, of course, right? Can I say yes, no, yeah, maybe? And you can
Yes.
Yes, you do, because I do.
Yes, backed by science.
Backed by, yes, because that's a very और उसी अब अगला क्वेश्चन पूरा ग्राउंड लेवल पे ही है कि अच्छा ये मैनिफेस्टेशन लोग रोंडा बैन की बुक पढ़ के सीख तो गए, लेकिन उसको एक्चुअली हाउ डज आयुषी अप्लाई इट? क्या सुबह उठ के यू एक्चुअली हैव अ पेन एंड पेपर एंड अ डायरी जिसमें यू सेट योर इंटेंशन, और डू यू टेक गूगल नोट्स व्हाइल सेटिंग दोज सेल्फ चार्टर नोट्स, या फिर डू यू प्रैक्टिस एफर्मेशंस इन फ्रंट ऑफ द मिरर? व्हाट आर दोज एक्चुअल एक्सरसाइजेस व्हिच मे बी यू आर टेलिंग योर क्लाइंट्स टू डू एंड दे हैव बेनिफिटेड?
So again, it's different from my clients and me now because I've been doing this for so many years that I've reached that space where I don't need to actively do it, pen paper leke ya fir affirmations bolna, right? What I do is when I was leaving for this podcast from home, right? I was like, bomb lag rahi hai, right? Like I'd say just that, right? You know, just saying
self-love.
things like, that's it, right? Affirming that, okay, great man, you're gonna look amazing on the video. That's it, right? Itna sa bolne se whether I am or not, वो तो लोग बताएंगे.
And they can have their own -10 to +10 spectrum with judgments.
But मुझे तो लग रहे हो ना मैं, that's it. So I've reached that space. But one of the exercises that I love, and I've seen, I really tell my women clients, female clients to do this is, and of course it works for all genders, not just women. If you have a big mirror in your house, right, whether it's your bathroom mirror or room mirror or whatever, near the mirror or on the mirror, put some sticky notes with certain words which are, again, you're not saying I am superwoman. But for example, on my mirror, there are things written. One is I am enough, right? Because when you're a business owner, a lot of times you get in this loop where you're like, am I doing enough? Am I doing enough, right? So I put I am enough, I am loved, right? So these two things, when I read, even subconsciously ध्यान तो जाते ही है ना, आप actively नहीं भी read कर रहे हो. And I've had these for 2 years on my mirror now. It is in my subconscious now.
Really, so I completely agree there, because sticky notes, I think what we are saying essentially is visual learner. जैसे I'm also a visual learner कि हम visual दिखेगा तो मेरे subconscious को याद आ जाएगा. Perhaps my actions through the day will guide me through it. This is just the right time for the last question for this particular session, because it circles back to a life coach as well. And again, this stems out from my confusion between 4 words. One is therapist, one is psychologist, one is psychiatrist, and one is life coach. मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि when someone is a life coach or a productivity coach, any sort of an online coach, offline coach for a particular life area, the methods resemble a lot of what a therapist might be using, at least in the diagnosis part of it. कि अच्छा, there are some personality test quizzes that I would want you to take. There are some questions that I would want to ask you on your behaviors or a time when this happened, so that I can mentally a little try to judge that, okay, maybe whatever you're feeling stems out of this. And this is purely from a tactical point of view as well. Even in terms of time management coach, one would say कि अच्छा तुम अपना टाइम कितना स्पेंड करते थे, सुबह ज़रा मुझे टाइम ट्रैकर दिखाना, अपने आईफोन का स्क्रीन यूजेज दिखाना, अच्छा तुमने लगा मीटिंग कितनी देर है बट कितनी देर प्रिपेयर करी, नहीं तुम्हें इतना कितने बजे सोए, एंड देन ही विल ट्राई टू सम इट अप विद अ पर्सनैलिटी ट्रेट in the parlance of only time management. And so I don't know कि अच्छा लाइफ कोच भी काफ़ी हद तक लाइफ एडवाइस दे रहा है, which will help personally. I want to be proven wrong because I do not know where does a therapist start, where does a life coach end, where does a psychiatrist enter, what is a psychologist then doing. If you are aware, please do guide me कि ये 4 चीज़ें अलग-अलग हैं या हल्के फुल्के भी overlaps हैं कि नहीं. And guys, don't judge me because I am also learning for the first time.
No judgment.
This is like a 101 education session going on.
I will refer to one of the books that's kept here. And आपने The Courage to be Disliked पढ़ी है?
Yes.
पूरी पढ़ी है ना, अच्छे से पढ़ी है?
फिलोसोफर अंकल और बच्चे की कहानी अच्छे से. Yes.
उसमें आपको बताया था अल्फ्रेड एडलर की साइकोलॉजी, इफ यू रिमेंबर. तो अभी तक ऑल दीज स्कूल्स ऑफ साइकोलॉजी, साइकोलॉजिस्ट्स, थेरेपिस्ट, साइकाइट्रिस्ट, काउंसलर्स, ऑल ऑफ दैट वर्क ऑन सिगमंड फ्रॉइड एंड कार्ल यंग्स साइकोलॉजी, स्ट्रीम ऑफ साइकोलॉजी, विच इज, अगर उसको हम लेमन में बोले तो अभी तक आपके साथ जो कुछ हुआ है इन द पास्ट वो आपको बनाता है जो आप हो आज.
That's the fundamental, right?
That is Freudian psychology, that's Carl Jung की psychology. लेकिन उसी टाइम पे there was a little less popular psychologist called Alfred Adler. Alfred Adler said कि ठीक है, जो कुछ हुआ है आपके साथ in the past वो हुआ है, लेकिन doesn't mean कि आज की डेट में आपके पास choice नहीं है अपने आप को बदलने की आगे.
Okay.
Your traumas don't define you. So that's where coaching comes in. मतलब, if you go to a psychologist, psychiatrist, they will focus a lot on your childhood, your past. Your, you know, and then they'll try to decode ये कहाँ से आ रही हैं आपकी habits. जैसे आपने earlier in this podcast भी बोला था ना कि ये behavior भी कहीं से तो आ रहा होगा.
कहाँ से stem कर रहा है? Where is this coming from?
हाँ, maybe something happened in the childhood. Yes, it may have. But the thing is, वहीं पे ख़त्म नहीं होती ना हमारी journey. A lot of people get so attached to their trauma that they refuse to change. That's where this whole book is based on it. That आज आपके पास है choice कि आप अपने आप को बदल सकते हो. तो life coaches क्या करते हैं? They won't go into your past too much. Okay. They'll only nudge you in the forward direction. So we do a lot of this thing called forward pacing. So अगर हम किसी को anxiety में भी help कर रहे हैं, तो we will make them forward pace कि if tomorrow this happens, how are you going to show up? That's where you're breaking your past patterns. Honestly, it's going to sound very blunt. We don't care much about what has happened in your past.
So past का diagnosis part of the equation is not where life coaches operate in. Life coaches operating at this point and forward, this is what you can do for success, this, that.
So you'll see a lot of psychologists refer their clients to life coach. ठीक है, हम 6 महीने से थेरेपी कर रहे हैं, हमने कर लिया पास्ट के ट्रॉमास को रिजॉल्व, अब आप जाओ लाइफ कोच के पास. I work with a few psychologists जो हम bounce back and forth करते रहते हैं clients. Yeah.
That's interesting. That helps me at least put that starting ending to different balances. Thank you so much for educating me because I got to touch not just on productivity, we also delved into communication skills, body language side of it, and a little bit on mental health, which was really enlightening for me. So I don't know if you got to learn anything from this session or not, but I did learn 2 to 3 things, and I hope whoever's listening, उन्हें कोई एक चीज भी अगर पता लगी हो कि यार 40 मिनट काम आए. So I hope this was worth your time, guys. So thanks a lot, Ayushi, for coming to the show. And thank you so much again. Any parting thoughts for anyone? Otherwise, that's it from my side.
Just this, everything we talked about, I'm so grateful to you for asking the right questions, and I hope एक भी चीज अगर कोई इसमें से सीख लेना, that'll make our day.
Perfect. Okay, guys, with that, it's a wrap. See you on the other side. Thank you.